Good evening. Welcome to the Toronto Debating Society. Tonight is May 6th, 2014. This is a random roll style debate. The resolution is, be it resolved that smart is the new sexy. The first speaker is the Prime Minister, who will be
I'm so excited. Dean!
During the Prime Minister's speech, the remaining debaters must take careful notes as they do not know if they are about to oppose or support the points being presented. The remaining positions will be announced right before they are asked to speak. Dean will now speak for 7 minutes. Welcome, Dean.
Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, smart is the new sexy. Smart, showing intelligence or good judgment; new, having recently come into existence; and sexy, sexually appealing, attractive, or exciting. I would like to invite you to consider 3 points. Firstly, consider human history and the place of humans in the development of the society of which we are now a part. I would like you to consider TV shows and movies as an example of what is sexy and what is smart, and also the role of education and knowledge in society. So, if you consider human history, and we're not going to go too far back, but very quickly, certain characteristics have been considered desirable due to nature or culture, and these have changed. So, Cro-Magnon man, strength and virility, and for females being able to tend and care for children. Middle Ages, financial security and social power for males, and physical beauty and a large dowry generally for women. So now that we're into the post-industrial age, we have determined, in fact, that intelligence is important, and in fact more important on a societal level as far as attractiveness goes. When one considers that more people are able to go to school and that more people are becoming educated formally and informally, that we do not have to depend on our physical strength anymore, we do not have to depend on being fierce and cunning in the ways of fighting off animals. So instead, intelligence is a way for humans to decide on who is a good mate, who are good people to socialize with. And this is very easily seen in a couple of examples that I will talk about now. Firstly, when we consider TV shows and movies, the television show The Big Bang Theory, which ironically is where this actual debate topic was mentioned by one of the characters, has 23.4 million viewers on average per show in the United States and Canada. And the funny thing is, these people are nerds. They are what the 1980s would consider the has-beens, the do-not-touches, the not respectable people. But they're intelligent students, university educated, in fact post-university educated. And in Toronto, at least back in 2010, when 3 of the characters, the actors rather, came up as their characters to talk at CTV studios, 1,000 fans showed up, mostly women, because the actors happened to be the men of the show. But they were attracted not only to the men themselves, but the characters that were being portrayed, the intelligent characters that these nerds from 30 years ago are now desirable people to associate with. One can question their mentality as far as that goes, but nonetheless, the idea is that that persona is seen as desirable. And in that way, it's even seen as sexy. They've used this on the show to promote the plot line between 6 of the characters, in particular, in a sexual way, not overtly, but nonetheless, it's still there. But the intelligence is never lost on the characters or on the people watching the show. On the other hand, if you consider Seth MacFarlane and his cartoons, Family Guy and American Dad, and Matt Groening's The Simpsons, those people are not considered particularly sexy. The main characters are considered rather dull and sort of slow-witted and the like. And they are not shown, in the American light at least, to be what would be desirable. It's more of a farce. So in at least the role of TV and the movies and the like, smart is in fact the new sexy. When we consider about education and knowledge, as I said, education has become more important. College education, university, more people are college and university educated now than in myriad years in the past. Now, who gets the news coverage today when you consider it? Well, it's the computer nerds, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the computer hackers. Again, the people in the 1980s who wouldn't have been considered desirable. Now, there is a sexiness about them for the hacker community by the people who want to fight the power, fight the man, and just people who think that there should be a control on big government or big business. And that's the sexiness that's there. And it comes from their intelligence through computers, but also expanded out into the wider world, into the world of business, into the world of entertainment, into the world of Facebook pages and the like. People may not even know who Mark Zuckerberg is, in fact, but he is sexy in the sense that he is exciting. He is something to look up to, especially for the nerd boys in university and high school, to be well known around the world. As well, when one considers the musical Grease and the movie Grease with John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, this is the old way of doing things, the gangs and the fighting and the fist fights, and that's how you solved your problems, and the fast cars, and I drove faster than you. It still happens. You have Fast and Furious, nonetheless. But that seems to be moving to the side again. It's more the James Bond type, intelligent person. Still good looking as well, but that's what people going to the movies want to see. They want to see somebody who's a thoughtful person, or at least a thinking person, and there's a sexiness in there. Even if there isn't a physical sexiness necessarily, there's still a mental image of sexiness. Ladies and gentlemen, smart is the new sexy.
Thank you, Dean. Oh. It's not me. The next speaker is the Leader of the Opposition, who will be
Dante.
The Leader of the Opposition will now refute that IQ is a dominatrix, as was the case presented by the government, and persuade the House that algebra is not an aphrodisiac. The leader may refute either the examples which support the government's case, the thrust of the case itself, or the philosophical premise on which the case is built. The leader may also choose to counter the government in all three erogenous zones. Welcome.
Right now we just heard, thank you, by the way, for everyone for listening. Right now we just heard a very technical, very cold and defined definition of sexy. Sexy is this, sexy is that. This, therefore that, therefore blah. To think that sexiness comes from a set of definitions, to think that it comes from a set of, yes, obviously the trend of the current market statistics, blah. Sexiness is one of those core human elements that we try very hard to pinpoint, and we cannot specify. Therefore, I think that simply defining sexiness is a transgression. But to declare that smart has come to be the new sexy, to come in a new existence of sexy? No. For my speech, I will conduct it in two parts. First, I will refute the arguments made by the government. I will refute not only the sanity of their arguments, but also the way in which they were made. Very intelligent, but not... Yeah. Anyway, and then afterwards I will present my own points. Hopefully in a very attractive manner. All right, so in regards to the points made right now, they were looking, the government was all over the place, trying to convince us that human history, and then trying to convince us about media, and then about the importance of education, but I never really heard what has changed. I never really heard comparison to the past. Like in the past, like we were never told like while the first point elaborated on what sexiness used to be, the new point doesn't tell us what smartness came to replace sexiness. What did sexiness do for you in the past that smartness does for you in the present? Sure, he talks about the stereotypes presented to us in the TV shows, and a TV show that's a farce of smartness, a farce of nerdiness. He goes on to say that yes, like look at the models as they're presented in a comedic overrepresentation of something that's not true. I think that just to the more subtle of us who can catch on these little tensions, they would notice that a lot of the sexual cues went over the head of the protagonists, therefore making it, in essence, making the sexiness part, the obliviousness of the sexy, the farce. It's rather this show, or the show that the government was alluding to, The Big Bang Theory, is representing how these sexual tones are passed over the head of this stereotype, and the stereotype of the nerd. And my question is it the smartness that's the sexiness, or is it the obliviousness, the ditziness, the ness of, or the social awkwardness of these characters? It's very ambiguous when reading into the show, and I feel that the government used the straw man fallacy to represent what he's trying to portray in TV shows, or in media nowadays. And so also with regards to his arguments about like the loss of virality and the loss of strength as a virilifier. I think that while it's not as useful in society, we're not arguing about useful. We're not arguing about who can carry the most like stuff and who has like the social dowry and whatnot. We're talking about what causes that guttural feeling in your heart or in your body, right? Like, and I'm not just talking about like the politics of marriage. I'm talking about the stuff, right? So in that point, those are all really reasons why the government completely fell off. And I'm sure my partner will have more reasons to dig into about this. Now for my point, to make my point, I have 2 points as to why smart is not the new sexy. And the first point is that, well, it ain't new at all. It's not new. Smart has always been part of sexy, and I don't think it can replace it at all. And my second point is that to be smart is not to be clever or cunning. And I think that's a more important component of sexiness than just simple intelligence, right? All right, so my first point, with regards to it isn't exactly new, I mean, he's portraying like character. He even mentioned James Bond at a certain point. I'm very like disoriented because the government failed to define what the time period we were talking about. What is new? How new in the last 10 years, in the last 20? Because James Bond has been around for more than 50 years. And before him, there were others. There was like Audrey Hepburn, there was James Bond, there was Sigourney Weaver. I'm very confused as to the time I should be arguing for, but even in the past, we all have examples of sexiness being portrayed through smartness, right? And if smart is the new sexy, then what's the old one, right? That's kind of like the argument I'm trying to make right now is that in the past, smart people were also sexy, and there's nothing new about smartness being sexy. it's rather a matter of being part of the whole package. And that's actually my second point. This is still part of my first one. It's a composition fallacy. It's when we try to break down an argument, like saying, oh, well, this specific part is true, while ignoring that it may be part of a larger system, which is true. So sexiness is still sexiness. Smartness is part of that. And my final point, it deals with smartness and whether or not it's what the government is trying to portray it as. So, in my opinion, at least in the women I like, it's the type of smartness, the type of sexiness I'm looking for is a cunning. It comes from an inbred instinct of how to act, how to portray yourself. The confidence. Is confidence smartness? I don't think so. I know some very confident people who are not very smart. But that said, it's all a bigger package. It's that confidence, that feeling, that way of going about. Hopefully, kind of like what you're seeing right now. But that is more important to sexiness to me than smartness. And I think that more than anything is being portrayed in media, not farce media like The Big Bang Theory or Seth MacFarlane, but actual intelligent characters are more confident, like Hugh Laurie in Dr. House, or like what's it called, or that guy in The Mentalist. They're more I don't know. They're more confident and more witty and charming than they are. Like, that is the true sexiness, rather than the lab rats that do the work for House, or like the lab rats that do all this work. And in terms of like, yeah. So you guys follow your gut on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. The next speaker is the government seconder.
Yes. And then the big mystery is who's the last person in the Jim is the government seconder.
The government seconder must refute that bootylicious comes from brawn or other features, as brought forward by the leader of the opposition, which again may be argued at the level of evidence, argument, or premise. Elements used in this refutation must be consistent with the rest of the government's case. Jim will now speak.
Thank you. How does this thing work? Oh, it started. Okay, good. Ladies and gentlemen, well, I think I should start by refuting the leader of the opposition's meanderings and general malaise, as it were, with his stream of consciousness. All I can say, if I can find something to oppose, I might find something in there, but obviously it was well researched. It just didn't apply to the topic this evening, and I think you could say brilliantly executed, which I think is what should happen to the leader of the opposition. I'm really not sure if I can actually tease out some of the body of information that the leader of the opposition came up with. Sexiness is a core human element. Well, okay, that's fine. Has anything changed? Well, yes, a lot of things have changed. As the Prime Minister has pointed out, I assume that the leader of the opposition was outside during the Prime Minister's brilliant dissertation on what it is. Brilliant, I say, brilliant dissertation on the case this evening, that smart is the new sexy. So I would like to highlight some of the fallacies in the leader of the opposition's arguments, but I couldn't follow them. So basically, I would say that I couldn't really understand what the leader of the opposition was trying to say, apart from the fact that he said that the Prime Minister didn't know what he's talking about. And I am here, ladies and gentlemen, to show you that not only did the Prime Minister know what he's talking about, he put on a good show, and I will further some of his arguments this evening. Now, the Prime Minister has three major items: the history of development in society, TV shows, and education and knowledge. I would like to take these in reverse. I would like to start with education. Ladies and gentlemen, education is the single most important factor affecting smart as a new sexy. This has gone on in the past 10 years, and during those 10 years, females have outperformed males immensely. Like 10 years ago, something like 40% of females were graduates. Now it's 57% and increasing. And this is at the master's and the doctorate levels. So the chances are, when you want to see a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to see a lady. You're going to see a woman. What has this done to society? As the Prime Minister has pointed out, it has enabled females to be independent. They enabled them to be capable of living on their own and no longer needing a man in the house. What does this mean, ladies and gentlemen? It means that you guys out there had better adjust your plumage, because women are no longer prepared to put up with Joe in the bar, who after he empties his can of beer, smashes it on his head. This has always been out with ladies, but in the past, sometimes they haven't been able to look after themselves because they would earn 50% of what men earn for the same jobs, and they needed a breadwinner to actually be there to enable them to survive. This doesn't exist anymore. This is for the ladies. How about for the men? The gentlemen, according to a study in The Economist recently, show that smart people are choosing other smart people to marry. So this applies to men and females. The females are driving it, but men also need to be smart in order to find their mate. And that's exactly what the Prime Minister talked about in the history of development already. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Prime Minister pointed out, society has moved on. It is an evolutionary process. As evolutionary psychologist Geoffrey Miller pointed out, intelligence, creativity, and even humor might have evolved only because of choosy women. They now have the choice, gents. You've got to watch out. And Dr. Lisa De Bruin of the University of Aberdeen highlights the fact that the more rough and tumble an environment, the more women need someone to look after them. We're not in rough and tumble environments anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Women are looking for men for their intelligence to be able to help bring up their children. Men who are capable of earning a good living and looking after them, making sure they have good housing, good food, and a nanny. And of course, Porsches and vacations. Why not? So men, you've got to be smart. Ladies and gentlemen, please vote for the government this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. So by process of elimination, the next speaker is the opposition seconder will be Gurjo. The member of the opposition has 3 responsibilities: summarizing the principal arguments and their development through the intercourse of the debate, refute refute the case of the government that Clever is cute, and supporting arguments proposed by his colleague. The final responsibility of the member is to expand on the opposition case, reaffirming the position presented by the leader of the opposition. Gurjo will now speak for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. I really wished I was on this side and I got it. Thank God for that. And there are, of course, our topic is smart is new sexy, and I wish I would have got rather better points that our government has made, and government seconder was already had contradictory points. First, he started with the education that female are outperforming males, and they don't need a man anymore. And then from the evolutionary perspective, he was talking about the rough environment's not there, they need intelligent men, and then again a dependency there. Anyways, so I have a lot to cover here. And from the various points that we are hearing today, human history, TV shows, education, society, they all, we agree they should be here, but they are not. That we are not considering intelligence and smartness as sexy. But our society is totally in a different direction. Ladies are getting more education, they are getting more independent, and in last 10 years, what industries has more revenue, what industries are coming up more? Cosmetic industries, the revenues of the cosmetic industries, liposuction, Botox, cosmetic surgery. They want to look better. Sexiness has not changed into smartness. It is again the physical aspect of the sexiness that is still there, that so much money has been spent in that industry. For men, that smart people are choosing other smart people, as leader of opposition said, and you might check on the new dating site survey, like eHarmony survey says that what men want. Men want women who are more playful, who don't take them seriously. That's the popular culture today. The popular culture, media is projecting people who are physically attractive or celebrities. That's the media, that's the culture, that's the popular culture today. It is not about the smart people, nerdy people, geeky people there who are the poster child of this world. No, these are celebrities. You're talking about the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory, the 1,000 people showed up to meet those 4 stars. How many people were at ACC when Miley Cyrus showed up? You will see. You will know the difference. That's the popular culture. The Big Bang Theory. These are minority. This is not the popular culture at all. This doesn't tell that smartness has become the sexiness. And there is a reason. There is a biological reason. There is a physiological reason. How the human brains work, the limbic system works differently. It doesn't first try to find the intelligence or smartness. Limbic system always goes for evolutionary perspective. Limbic system always sees for physical attractiveness. There is a different theories that work in your brain. Once you get to know the person, then you see that what is wise, what is intelligence. That has always been here, as the leader of opposition has said, that it is not that smartness was never respected. Intelligence was always respected. Thoughtfulness was always respected. Aristotle was thoughtful. They were intelligent people. We still read about them. So it is always a combination of both. Your smartness can't become sexy. It has, as the leader of opposition said, you have to be a combination of both things. It can't be that you're smart. If you're too smart and you're bragging about it, it is not good. Smartness is not sexy in that way. As in the Big Bang Theory, as you might know better, that there is one Korean kid who is with a couple of girls, and the character, Howard said, smart is new sexy. And then the other character, Leonard, says, we are smart, but we go home alone every night. Then Raj says, maybe we are too smart. We are so smart that it is off-putting. Smart is not sexy. Sexiness is a combination of your looks, your personality, your intelligence, your thoughtfulness, your gentleness, and how you react or act in your environment. Smartness alone was never sexy. It is far, far beyond from being sexy in today's world. Thank you very much.
Now everybody's here. So now it's time for the summations. Each side will summarize their points for 2 minutes. First will be the opposition summaries. So Dante.
All right, let's go over this once more. Let's see what our brilliant government had to say today. They said that human history has changed and the environment has changed. Well, guess what? Sexiness hasn't. That was our point. They said that TV shows and stereotypes now present the sexy nerd. I said, no. They present a smart, considerate, or sometimes aloof, or what's it called? Socially inept as cute. And then further on, my partner went to say that they're talking about a minority and not a majority. So in that case, we feel that that argument was entirely defeated. Then there were some points that I don't know if they were either sexy or sexist, but they went on to say that the change to the woman being the breadwinner somehow changed the perception of sexiness. I feel like I like to believe that society can still have sexiness being physical without it having to demean the accomplishments of the fairer sex. But again, and then they went on to say something about intelligence, breadwinning, Porsches, and etc. when education really has shown to be as useful as a high school degree before, like a post. Anyway. So what we said is that smart has always been packaged with sexy. It's the shake that comes with your fries. And smartness is like the smartness that we find sexy is not just intelligence, it's confidence too. Furthermore, we said that evolution has formed our limbic system to be attracted to things, and it's hard to beat like thousands of years of evolution with a couple years of nerd jokes. And finally, we presented that even though there might be a minority absurgence, the majority hasn't changed. Smart is not sexy.
And now for the government summation, Dean will now speak for 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I'm feeling all tingly down below. The Leader of the Opposition said my arguments were intelligent, so I guess he thinks I'm sexy at least, and I guess that means I'm smart. So we'll accept that acceptance of our proposal. I would like to just remind you, the House, of our arguments. Firstly, that society has changed. It has grown, it has become different, where men and women are now able, as my learned colleague has stated, to live for themselves because of their intelligence, and they're able to do things on their own or choose to be together. And in fact, smart people marrying smart people being what seems to be a newer trend would indicate that yes, intelligence is indeed sexy. The assertions of my colleagues on the opposition suggesting the limbic system issue, well, black widow spiders tend to eat their mates who are acting on their limbic system, so perhaps that's not the best a source of intelligence that way. And as far as Aristotle, I don't know that we had anybody meet him to know what he was thinking about dating history or whatever was sexy to him. The issue is, I was proposing as the Prime Minister that there are examples in popular culture that show that intelligence is favored and is appreciated by the masses. 23 million people watch The Big Bang Theory, intelligent guys, nerdy as they are. Mark Zuckerberg is out there. Again, the old poor people from high school in the 80s are now the intelligent people. They're accepted more so in society. Outperforming males are females who were shuttered away, not thought of as intelligent. They're coming forward with doctoral and postdoctoral degrees, ladies and gentlemen. That is sexy. Smart is the new sexy. Please vote for the motion.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Danielle, who is our adjudicator for tonight.
After a heated debate, probably the last thing that the debaters want to do is to hear about what I think about the debate. However, I think it's a good time to reflect on what worked well and what aspect of the debate perhaps you may want to consider next time. It's also another opportunity that the Toronto Debating Society offers to provide an opinion that is debatable, and that will be done in about half an hour. I will go in order of presentation, and then perhaps I'll do just a little summary. I was very impressed by Dean. He really set the stage. He came in and he had some solid content in terms of his arguments that were well presented, were clear, were easy to follow, made sense, and they were supported by very good examples and argument. Dante came in and he was quite clever, because instead of trying to attack the arguments that were presented by the government, he attacked the definition. And he found the weak points in the resolution, which was new defined as recent, but it was not defined specifically. So what's new? Is it 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? Romanian? Don't know. And then smart. He said smart is not, all of it is not sexy, doesn't equal sexy exactly. It is perhaps a component of sexiness. I thought that was very clever to do that. Jim, in my opinion, was the only one that brought the both point of view, men and women. Why is it that it's only smart men that can be sexy? Why can smart women be sexy as well? I thought that was strange. That was totally ignored by most of the debaters except for Jim. Well done. And also I felt that there was some research as well. You mentioned there were 2 quotes, and you mentioned The Economist as well, a quote from The Economist. Well done. Gurjan, I thought your example of the fact that people, although they have more money, are not any smarter, in the sense that when they go to attract other people, they go for cosmetic surgery. And you also showed that you were doing a little bit of research, in the sense that you said in eHarmony, what men want is playfulness. It's keeping it light, having fun together, not having deep discussion on philosophical topics. So I thought that was very well done. One thing that surprised me is the fact that nobody mentioned the fact that smart people make more money. So Mark Zuckerberg is very sexy, not because he's a nerd, but not because he's smart, because he's got billions of dollars at his disposal. And that makes him very sexy. And if you don't believe me, look at the number of marriage that you have between very rich men and very young women. I'm sure there's a sexiness element there. And as I said, smart people tend to make more money, and therefore it adds to their attractiveness. As I said, Dean set the tone of the entire debate, and it made it easier for Jim to actually provide some, demonstrate some teamwork, because he had some arguments that he could latch on and elaborate on. Dante, on the other hand, because your presentation of your elements were more vague, it was more difficult for Gurjo to really latch onto them and continue the discussion on what you had started. You spent a fair amount of time talking about the definitions, but it took me a while to realize that you were attacking the new and the smart. And because you spent so much time, I guess you didn't have time to really provide content that was really convincing to me. Also, you labeled 2 fallacies, but perhaps as a new debater, just naming the fallacy doesn't make real for me. So you talked about the strawman fallacy and the composition fallacy. The composition fallacy, you kind of defined it, but the strawman fallacy, to tell you the truth, I have no idea what it is. I heard one laugh, and it's probably the one person who knows what that strawman fallacy is. What can I say about that? Well, I'm going to give the results. The numbers don't make any difference anyway, but I feel that the government won this resolution at 68 to 47. So, government. Very good. And I also give Dean the award of the best debate. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Danielle. And now for the popular vote. As I've heard, this is tradition. The vote was 2 in favor of the government and 12 in favor of the opposition. Therefore, the popular vote goes to the opposition. And so the motion is defeated. Thank you. Is that it?